Hi guys and welcome. I am Enigmius and today we get to start on a brand new project. It's always exciting to start on something new. We're going to spend most of our time taking a look at that in detail, but before we go over there, first thing we're going to do is take a look over here. We're inside the weapons testing facility, and if you'll recall back when I built it, I mentioned that the outer ring would be reserved for my equivalent exchange facility, which you can see I've actually made. And the truth is, this was built just before I started work on the underwater facilities, the replacement for the hive and the testing facility and the monster farming area. Those were all built after I built this. I made the first power flower with materials that I gathered the old-fashioned way, the diamonds, the nether, the glowstone, all that stuff I came up with on my own, and then I used those to carry on and duplicate and make more and more and more. So now I've got a dozen power flowers, 6 of which are devoted to making diamonds and Mobius fuel in the proper ratio to make Klein stars. The baby Klein star Ein. And then as those are made, everything just kind of works its way down. You can see a Klein star Ein going into that chest there. When that chest has 4, it'll be, those will be turned into the Klein stars Y. All the way down the line to Klein star Omega. You can see I've got a few of these, and 6 of them are fully charged. Now, I have 3 power flowers devoted to charging the Klein star Omegas. You can see this one's about 3/4 charged. This one over here will probably be similar. Yeah, because these two sort of synchronize with one another. And this one was added after the fact, so it's not quite in tune with the rest, but it's still doing okay. I don't have them hooked up to any kind of automated system to swap them out when they're full. They take so long to charge, I just kind of stop by every once in a while when I think about it, and if they're full, I swap them out for another one. And the last 3 power flowers are reserved for condensing dark matter, and I think, where's the other one? This guy here. More dark matter. And then the last one is red matter. So you can see, just based on how quickly that's incrementing, it stops incrementing when I mouse over it for some reason. You can see basically just based on how quickly it's incrementing and how many of these I have that these have been here for a while. And I remember commenting previously that equivalent exchange is sort of like the time spent mod, in that you set everything up and then you just leave it there. You don't have to feed it. You don't have to supply it with any kind of resources. You just let it go. And what you get out of it is entirely a function of how long it's been there. So I'm pointing that out now because I would expect within the next episode or 2, I will be starting to make a little bit more use of equivalent exchange items, specifically gem armor, and I'll probably try out the advanced, like the red matter Qatar and all that other stuff. Just because I'm getting to the point now where I'm realizing that I'm basically at endgame. I don't know how much more I could do to consider myself at an endgame level, but also because I'm basically doing everything now that I'll be doing with the gem armor. It's just the gem armor I won't have to think about maintaining as much. Like right now with my current facility, and it'll make more sense when you see it, I go through a lot of jetpacks. Or more specifically, I have to recharge my jetpack very, very frequently. And to have something that allows me to get around on sort of the vertical axis that doesn't have to be recharged so often would be definitely a benefit. So, I mean, there's nothing that I'll be able to do with the Abyss armor that I can't already do with existing gear. It's just it'll be a little bit smoother and a little bit less maintenance to keep it going. So we're through the winter forest, and now we're in the nice green grassy area. I've got sheep, and I've got chickens, and I've got cows, and little ponds. Lots of natural crevices around here, I've noticed. All over the place, really. So I just used the quantum leggings, the quantum boots, so I don't kill myself, and a jetpack to kind of accelerate past all this stuff. Now I'm into the extreme hills biome, where our next project is actually going to be built. And we're getting very, very close. Now, all of this that you're seeing here, except for the yellow lamp off in the distance on the side of the hill, is everything existing in its natural state. I haven't done anything here. You can see, like, there's an opening to a cave there. There's another one there. There's probably a bunch down there. That's a volcano over there amidst the fog. All this over here is completely natural. And that's the reason why I'm showing this to you, especially now early in the project, is so you can see what it looked like before I started building. Because one of the goals with this project is to leave the exterior as untouched as I possibly can, at least most of the time. Now, if you will go over to the other side, and I'll show you what I mean by most of the time. Crunch. Crunch again. Enough with the crunching. And you can see down here I've got sort of a tray sticking out the side of the hill. And on that tray I've got 2 high voltage solar arrays, one that I borrowed, so to speak, out of the hive, and the other one I had built and just set aside specifically for this project. And that's wired in. It's going to an MFSU inside. And then I've got all of these blue electric solar arrays that aren't even wired into anything. And the whole reason I put this here is this was a sort of a brief experiment. Actually, if I come over here, you can see it's got dirt on the end of it. And this is obviously frames. You can see the frames, and there's blue electric motors right there. This can be pushed back into the side of the hill and basically fully concealed. And that's sort of one of the ideas I'm getting at, is that if I want to have something extending out of the hill, I also need to be able to pull it back in so that it's concealed. And it's not like I'm playing on a PvP server. It's just more to add that challenge factor and something else to consider in the design beyond walls and floors and machines. It's got to be, for me, there's got to be something a little bit more interesting than just building a structure and filling it up with stuff. So that's one of the challenges that I've set for myself in this build, is when I'm done, I should at any given time be able to make it look as completely natural and untouched as it does now. So I'm going to be changing this little shelf, so to speak, or tray, depending on how you look at it. But for the time being, I do need the power that the solar arrays are generating, so I'm just leaving it here for now. Once I get a better idea for how I want to set it up, this eventually will be moving. So that leaves us with the interior of the structure, which apparently is haunted, just in time for Halloween. That's right. Apparently it's haunted. Just going to come over here, and I've got this lamp here specifically to mark the entrance, because otherwise it might be a little bit tricky to find. So eventually I'll be doing something a little bit more, I can't even think of a word. This will be closed at some point, whether it's sticky pistons or some sort of frame door, so that it won't even be like a door that's hiding based on just textures and camouflage. It'll actually be completely closed. And you can see I've got the beginnings of a facility. Yes, I am using, for many things, a plain furnace, a cobblestone furnace fueled with coal, just because I haven't run the wiring from the other, the MFSU over this far, which actually directly ahead where my cursor is pointing, that's the room with the tray. Now, obviously I've got a redstone computer here, and instead of wiring to all kinds of different things, I'm just wiring it to transmitters. And the transmitters are in that over there, which I am naming the Mega Turtle, because it's what all turtles eventually aspire to be when they grow up. And we're going to go over there and take a look at it and see exactly what's going on with it. But I'll just show you down here, carefully creeping over to the edge. Actually, let's go all the way down. I'll just check my jetpack. See what I mean by almost out of fuel? We're going to make a quick trip down and a quick trip back up, and that'll be about all we can do with this jetpack. So this is Bedrock, and this is all Bedrock that I mined down to with either that beastie up there or the first iteration of it, which was much smaller. It was actually a 9x9 block. There were a few design issues with it. One of the major ones was that I hadn't set it up with transposers to gather blocks off the top of the machine. So it was really only good at going straight down and, you know, along the X and Y axis, right? They weren't necessarily good for going up, because I would get all these blocks accumulated on the top of it and then it would start to lag out. So that was one of the issues I had with it. The other main issue is that I was having a hard time getting enough power into it to keep it going. So I've adjusted that, and then it got haunted, and it was crazy. But you can see down here, I'm starting to get the floor in place. I've left a gap between the edge of the marble here and the wall so that when I'm mining straight down or wherever, I don't have to worry so much about taking out the floor that I just worked so hard to place. So I've also disabled distance fog. As you can see, we can easily look up to the ceiling because it just seemed to be a little bit disappointing to have all this cool like vertical stuff going on and all of a sudden you can't see down because of the distance fog. Now eventually the whole purpose of this structure is going to be a replacement for all of my facilities, except maybe the weapons testing facility, just because I don't want to be dorking around with that much reinforced stuff anymore. But we're basically digging out the entirety of the hill all the way down to bedrock, and then we're going to line the walls with marble bricks, and then we're going to have glass terraces all over the place that will exist as platforms upon which to put various different functional areas. Like, for example, in the underwater area, I've got a facility for building solar panels right now. It's just a bunch of filters and automatic crafting tables and stuff pulling from my storage system. So one of those, if I wanted to have that moved over here, would get its own glass sort of shelf. So eventually when it's done, you'll be able to stand on a higher level and look down and you'll just see all these glass terraces going all the way down to the bedrock with all kinds of crazy stuff going on inside them. And that's part of why I wanted to keep the outside looking as natural as possible, just for that sort of contrast in themes. You go from the super busy and high-tech to the super natural and pastoral kind of thing outside. So that's what this facility will eventually be. And that's also why I'm going to be going forward with the gem armor, is because right now I can get to any level here and work on it with the jetpack just by going up and placing a block. I'll give you a brief demonstration here. Say I wanted to work up around there. I can just place a marble block or whatever block I happen to have, and there you go. I can work there. I can go anywhere I want and work with the jetpack. The only downside, like I said, is with the jetpack, I have to refuel it on a regular basis, which is just, it's like feeding machines. It's like, it's not challenging, it's just kind of tedious, and I'd rather be doing other things. So that's what I'll be doing with that. Now, I've told you what the facility is for. I've told you exactly how we're going to go about doing it. Now I need to show you the mega turtle on the inside, just give you a brief rundown of why it's haunted. And then we're going to finish it all off. We're going to let you see what the Mega Turtle does when it gets cranked up here. So this is sort of building on what I learned with the Nether Crawler, and in particular with the block cutting force fields. Only this time, I've added, you can see this is a area projector. So unlike the deflectors that I was using in the Nether that just project basically like a flat force field, this one can make either a cube or a sphere. You can see here. Cube or a sphere, and you can set the radius of whatever it happens to be. I know cubes don't have radiuses, but you know, you get the idea. And it's set up now so that it creates a cube directly around the outside edge of this structure. Call it a vehicle, call it a tool, call it a machine, whatever you want. And then it's got the block cutting upgrade on it so that it breaks all of the blocks that are directly adjacent to the structure. What I've done is I've added the underwater upgrade to it so that if it does happen to hit water or lava as it's mining, the force field will destroy any water or lava blocks that are inside the force field. So that's the quickest and easiest way I could come up with to deal with lava, you know, other than running around with buckets after the machine, throwing it on the lava to, you know, get rid of it. So this force field block down here, this is a deflector just like I had on the crawler, and it actually creates another two-dimensional force field one block below the machine that's a little bit wider than the machine, so that any blocks broken by the sides of the cubes or the outer edges of the top of the cube will fall onto that force field and will be picked up by the transposers underneath. It's just a way to keep from having a bunch of blocks building up down below where they fall and causing lag. So the other thing here is I've got the transposers up on the top. Like I said, full coverage on the top to gather any blocks that fall on the top of the vehicle. And then over here, I've got diamond chests. You can see I've done a few tests with it so far. You'd be surprised at how little I've actually done with this. About half of what I've excavated so far I did with the Mark 1 with the smaller version. So this guy hasn't been in service for very long, but this is already what he's pulled out. The really crazy thing that I've found is that I put an onboard condenser on here to deal with, actually I'll show you. Here's the filter. It only pulls cobblestone and dirt. So each block that goes into the condenser is never worth more than 1 EMC. And then you look at this, and I haven't set this up because I need emeralds. I've just set it up because an emerald stores 1,024 EMC. Look at how much EMC. That's 67,000 EMC and change that has come into this condenser by way of cobblestone and dirt that I would have otherwise had to store. 67,000 blocks of cobblestone or dirt that I would have otherwise had to store if it weren't for the energy condenser. So it's got the onboard energy condenser just so I don't have to dick around emptying chests of all the trash blocks. Probably one of the best additions that I made. Now, when I was setting it up, this side where I'm standing now, it had built-in thermopiles, and I think I had about 18 thermopiles total set up in here. I had the lava source blocks, I had water blocks, I had everything set up so that the thermopiles were working. And then I had to go back to the hive for materials to make some things, and I came back, and a big bunch, like a whole cluster of batteries and thermopiles right around this area here had completely disappeared. And I tried everything I could do, thinking maybe it was a glitch. I tried moving it. I tried exiting the game and reloading the game. Nothing happened. They were just completely gone. And all I could imagine was this line of smiling Endermen walking through a cave somewhere with my thermopiles and batteries, you know, happy that they found something a little bit more interesting than dirt. So I was like, okay, that kind of sucks because I didn't have the batteries and the thermopiles on hand to replace them. So I went and made more. I went and got more lava blocks. I set it all up again. And then I was testing it, getting it all moving and working properly, and all of a sudden all of the water source blocks and lava source blocks just disappeared. They just completely disappeared. Nothing else was missing. It's not like there was a little army of creepers that came in and blew up half the ship. No, it's just specifically the water and lava blocks disappeared. So for the time being, I've left the thermopiles out of here. What I've been doing is I've got an ender chest. This is the same coating as the ender chest and the thermopile battery in the underwater test hangar. So I do have access to batteries fairly easily, and I'll see about adding more thermopiles a little bit later. But for now, hopefully I have enough juice left. Actually, you know what? We're just going to head over to the inside where the MFSU is and my charging bench, and I'm just going to charge up my jetpack very, very quickly. And then we'll go back over to the computer and we'll do a little time lapse of this thing digging, and I'll show you where we're going to dig, and then we'll just let it go. So this is the inside view of the tray. You can see I've got motors, I've got some battery boxes. There's the high voltage solar arrays, MFSU, charging bench, all this good stuff. You can see I'm loaded down with marble from where I was working on the floor, and this doesn't take long to charge at all. It's a puny little energy capacity compared to pretty much everything else I use. So it just takes a few seconds, and then we'll be off and running to something a little more interesting. That's good enough. We don't need it full. Just, if I were to fall down to the bedrock where I was showing you with the marble floor, because I ran out of power in the jetpack, I would survive because of the quantum gear, but I would have to dig my way back up because there's no other way I'd be able to get up. So that's why I'm trying so hard to avoid it. So this is basically using almost identical routines to the Nether Crawler in terms of movement. The only thing is it's been updated so that every direction will be a little bit more involved in terms of pulsing shields so that it actually does mining instead of just moving. So what we're going to do is we're going to position this guy so that it's ready to go west. What I really do not want is for this thing to take out my MFSU as it moves along on its little mining journey. So sometimes the timing just doesn't quite work. So you'll tell it to move 3 times and it'll only move 2 because it takes a little bit longer than it might have thought for a battery to charge up a motor or something like that. So we'll move up 2 as well. Right now it's not doing anything with the force field. I've got some very basic routines to allow it to sort of move independently without wasting power, pulsing force fields that I don't need pulsed. And then just for safety, We'll go 2 more times south. Yeah, because it only moved once. And now we'll get into the time lapse. I'll let you take a look at this, and then we'll wrap it all up. And there you have it. Excavated those 2 whole columns. You can see the one thing that gives this thing trouble right now is gravel. When it's mining its way up, gravel tends to slow it down. And you can see there's almost always some gravel that makes its way down to the bedrock level. But realistically speaking, short of really tedious run around and pick everything up mining with Nova Cataclysms or some other EE solution that even though I'm talking about using the armor, doesn't necessarily mean I want to be using everything else. That's probably the fastest way I've ever seen to mine large areas and be able to collect everything that you mine. So like I said, next episode, I'll probably be wearing new armor and we'll be continuing work on here. I'll be doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes just so you're not looking at the same barren excavated walls for the next 5 hours worth of episodes. So I hope you're enjoying this new series, all the machines, all the big stuff, all the plans. If you want to be notified when I add a new video, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching and take care.